The tensions between India and Canada for the past year have exploded like a nuclear bomb in the last 40 hours. This has ended India-Canada diplomatic relations. The millions of rupees in trade and the future of millions of children are in danger. Canada has accused the Indian government of tracking down Canadian Palestinian sympathizers on the land. They kill them with the help of gangsters like Lawrence Bishnoi and interfere in the democratic process of Canada. The Indian government, while denying these allegations, gave Canada a very firm diplomatic response. It asked for proof from Canada and requested Canadian diplomats to leave the country. Canada has also leaked some information through the press, which is very harmful to the image of Indian government. In this whole issue, many names are mentioned, including diplomats, the National Security Advisor, gangster Lawrence Bishnoi, and the Home Minister Amit Shah. This is a diplomatic nuclear war for India and Canada, marking the biggest news of this year. It is important to understand why allies like Canada did this to us, how relations became so sour, what evidence Canada has provided, whether there is any truth in Canada's words, why India accepted the same allegations when the USA put them on us, and how this war will affect you and us. What will be the impact of this on our country? More than 3 lakh students are studying in Canada, completing their studies there. What about them? What about trade? And what will be the ultimate impact of this on the international image of India? Let's try to find out this in this episode. But first, what happened in the last few hours? On October 13, the Canadian government informed the Indian Ministry of External Affairs that India's High Commissioner to Canada and some of our diplomats are being included in an ongoing investigation as persons of interest. The Canadian police were suspicious that these people had helped in illegal activities or were involved in wrongdoing. What are those illegal activities? What were the allegations from the Canada on these diplomats? We will come to that next. On October 14th, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs issued a strongly worded statement against the Canadian government. India strongly rejects allegations of Canadian involvement. It was also highlighted that in the case related to this statement, Canada has not provided any solid evidence to the Indian government. The Indian government directly launched an initiative against Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, stating that it has lost faith in the current government and accused Trudeau of engaging in vote bank politics. The Ministry of External Affairs also stated that if the Canadian government keeps accusing Indian diplomats and supporting extremists and separatist groups against India, the Indian government will take action against the Trudeau government. In the history of India, such strongly worded diplomatic statements are rare. Foreign experts say that such language is typically seen between India and Pakistan, and that too during open war. On the same day by evening, the Ministry of External Affairs summoned Canada's senior-most envoy. Canada's chargé d'affaires released a public statement, which is important because in the last year, the Indian government said that the Canadian government did not provide any proof that Indian officials are targeting Khalistani sympathizers in Canada.
Canada has provided credible, irrefutable evidence of ties between agents of the government of India and a murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil.
However, Stewart Wheeler emphasized that Canada has now shared evidence. India issued a statement demanding the withdrawal of its High Commissioner from Canada and also wants to withdraw those diplomats who are being targeted by Canada. The Ministry of External Affairs stated that the Trudeau government is non-committal to ensuring the security of the diplomats, so the government is calling them back to ensure their safety. Additionally, diplomatic relations with Canada are being downgraded. Meanwhile, reports also emerged that Canada has expelled 6 Indian diplomats along with the Indian High Commissioner. Around 9:30 p.m., our External Affairs Ministry released another press release officially announcing that 6 diplomats, including Stewart Wheeler, are being expelled from Canada. The reason for their expulsion was not officially specified in this press release. By the evening of October 14th, all these events were unfolding in India. In Canada, it was only morning, but in the next few hours, India-Canada relations were set to end. This is especially bad news for students who wish to go to Canada in the next few years for higher education. Slowly, international avenues are decreasing for Indian students, first the USA, then the UK, Australia, and now Canada. Canada doubled their response with a Royal Canadian Mounted Police press conference detailing the diplomats involved in criminal activities. They explained that the fallout is not about a specific case. The commissioner said that 8 people have been arrested in connection with murder and 22 people have been arrested in extortion-related cases. Some of the arrested individuals are said to be connected to the Government of India. This is a serious accusation from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Prime Minister Trudeau has also repeated the same allegations. This press conference also included mentions of gangs and organized crime syndicates. The Canadian police stated that Indian diplomats use official channels to gather information on specific pro-Khalistani individuals. Information is supplied, after which specific individuals are either trafficked, threatened, or murdered. The police especially took the name of the Bishnoi gang, which is being seen as connected with the Indian government agents in Canada.
But what I can tell you is that we've seen a number of criminal organizations that have been involved in the various criminal activity. I mentioned previously the Lawrence Bishnoi gang, which is a gang that's involved in extortions and narcotics originating from India.
It's not the first time the Bishnoi gang has come up, but at the international level, the name of the gangster who has been in jail for a decade is being mentioned in Canada, which is shocking. Now, this case has reached all the way to Canada, but it would have been okay up to this point. Soon after this press conference, Prime Minister Trudeau himself held a joint press conference with his Foreign Minister and Public Safety Minister. In this joint press conference, Canada made some more allegations against the Indian government and our diplomats, explaining how linkages were gathered during the police investigations that show Indian government agents involved in criminal activities. To move forward with the investigations, the police felt the need to talk to diplomatic staff. But diplomats are not ordinary people. They cannot be directly investigated by the police, questioned at their homes, or summoned. Diplomats have diplomatic immunity, so they cannot be involved in any criminal investigation. That is why Canada first requested the Indian government to waive the immunity of specific staffers so that the interrogation could be done. However, Canada claims that India did not agree to this. Subsequently, these individuals were officially put in the category of persons of interest, leading to the dramatic fallout. The biggest revelation was that Canada had already decided to expel these 6 diplomats. Canada is also threatening India to take further action with its G7 allies and the Five Eyes if it doesn't cooperate in the investigation. Sanctions are not ruled out, so we have to be ready for a long diplomatic standoff. Is Canada lying? Is Trudeau's domestic politics so important to him that he has decided to destroy relations with India? To understand this, we have to discuss the Pannu case. When the Indian government is fighting a world war with Canada and denying Canada's allegations, talks of peace with the US are ongoing, while the US also alleged the same on the Pannu case. The US Department of Justice found that an Indian officer was trying to eliminate Pannu. Some believe that Pannu is a cartoonist who keeps making videos and threatening people, but he is a designated terrorist in India. However, he is now an American national and an Indian agent was trying to kill him on American soil. This officer's name is mentioned as Vikram Yadav in the Washington Post. In court records, he is referred to as CC1. India told the USA that CC1 has been arrested and the Indian government is investigating this case. On the day Canada's diplomats were expelled, India admitted that an Indian agent was planning to kill an American citizen. Why such a big difference between the USA and Canada? Canada and the USA are different countries with different capabilities. But there is another truth that Canada may not have handled this case properly. We know that US officials have been sharing this information privately for months, and the matter came to public after the indictment of the Department of Justice. Trudeau's mistake was that he went straight to the Canadian Parliament. He went to the Parliament and dropped the bomb, stating that he has evidence linking the government of India to the murder of 6 separatists.
Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
The question is, if Canada has given proof, was there an agent in Canada trying to act against separatists? And if he was an agent, did our government know about this? This is the question. The nuclear bomb that exploded between India and Canada did not explode suddenly. It started on June 18, 2023, when Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot dead. Nijjar was a Canadian citizen but wanted to promote extremism in India. 3 months after this murder, Prime Minister Trudeau dropped a bomb in the Canadian Parliament on September 18, claiming that Canada has credible information linking Indian government agents to Nijjar's murder. The next day, India rebutted this claim, calling it absurd. 2 days after Trudeau's statement, another Khalistani activist, Sukhdev Singh, was killed in Winnipeg, worsening the diplomatic front. Canada expelled 1 intelligence chief, after which India also asked senior Canadian diplomats to leave the country. After September, India and Canada have been aggressively pursuing this case. India has been putting Canada in a difficult position with the increasing number of Khalistani extremist forces in Canada. Last year, Following the Indira Gandhi assassination anniversary, India started vocalizing its stance after protests outside the embassies. India's demand was clear. Canada should curb extremism and not promote anti-India terrorism, and it should grant permission to extradite India's most wanted individuals. Canada tried to turn the narrative in its favor, showing the threat to the safety and security of Canadian citizens. The statement made by the Canadian government clearly states that they will not tolerate any threat to citizens in their country, nor will they tolerate interference and criminal activities by foreign powers. As per the Guardian report, more than 20 people have been killed in different countries under mysterious circumstances considered hostile to India. Most of the killings were against members of terrorist organizations in Pakistan, whom India blamed for the attacks in Pulwama. After the Delhi farmer protest in 2020, the focus shifted to Khalistani groups. The first number in these killings is Paramjeet Singh Panjwar, who was killed in Lahore in May last year. Then some Khalistani operatives in the UK were threatened, and finally the murder of Nijjar and Sukhdol in Canada occurred. The Guardian report claims that these killings were ordered by the top Indian officials. The Washington Post reports that the murder of Nijjar in Canada is related to Home Minister Amit Shah. Whether this is true or not, if Canadian sources are informing the Washington Post, one thing is for sure: our relations with Canada are completely broken. There could be another theory behind this. If countries like the USA and Israel can find and kill their enemies in any corner of the world, if they have the courage and capability, why not India? However, such assassinations and secret operations only work when you are not caught or are outside the circle of suspicion, or your diplomats are not trapped. According to reports, Canadian officials shared Amit Shah's name in a secret meeting with Ajit Doval in Singapore. Doval denied all this, stating that India will never accept Nijjar's murder. He admitted that Indian diplomats can follow people but denied any links to threats and violence. He also refused any connection with the Bishnoi gang. However, according to the report, he shared a lot of information with Canadian officials about Bishnoi and how he can get anyone killed from the jail. If a national security advisor talks about a criminal like this in a closed-door meeting, it raises serious charges. Although this conversation has not been officially acknowledged yet, it is being reported in the international press. India's stance is that Canada should leave petty vote bank politics and take action against Khalistani terrorists and extremists if ties are to be normalized. But is politics really being played by Trudeau? If you look at Canadian politics, all political groups, whether in power or opposition, are demanding citizen safety and security in one voice. Canada's opposition leader, a big critic of Trudeau, released an official statement objecting to foreign interference and stating that priority should be given to the safety of citizens. If Trudeau loses in the elections, will our relations with Canada be improved? The answer to whether Canada could have handled this issue better is yes. The issue could have been handled behind closed doors and through back-channel diplomacy, but Trudeau went to the parliament and made it an international issue, worsening the situation. The US is also trying to give an implicit message to India to stay within limits in some cases. The Canadian government expects India to cooperate and does not want a diplomatic confrontation. It is not too late to take a step back. Now, there is Indian trade, and people-to-people ties can also be gravely affected. As we saw, one trade agreement is on hold, and now diplomatic ties are also being downgraded. More than 3 lakh students, families and businesses, Indians can face problems there. We should expect that Canadian and Indian diplomats correct the course, meet in closed-door meetings, compromise and move away from the standoff. But for that to happen, someone has to admit their mistake. Anger won't solve the problem. Thank you for watching, and let us know your views in the comments. Stay tuned to the Savera Times.